Lively, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as United reveal another injury shocker involving Casemiro. It's a stunner. It's an absolute stunner. I half expect Stone Cold Steve Austin himself to come out and what is going on? Am I live here or what? Or is my computer just died? I am live, don't worry. Also got an absolutely stunning stat for you about Rasmus Højlund. You won't want to miss this. Bruno Fernandes also coming out with a very in-depth interview, responding to his critics. Look, he spoke about the captaincy. He's spoken about the future at Man United. But I think the best thing that Bruno has said, he's spoken about the style of play. He's talking about why. And I respect Bruno. He obviously listens to a lot of your criticism because he's talking about why he gets rid of the ball quickly, why we don't retain the ball high up the pitch. Very open talk. And I told you. I bloody told you. I told you in the international break we would get some truth bombs coming out. Well, we've already had Eriksen. We've now had Bruno. What Bruno said is incredible, really. Rasmus today saying that all this nonsense about doing an interview with the United Stand was fake news. So you get a lot of truth coming out of players when they're on international break because they're protected and they can be a little bit looser with that with what they're saying. So we'll delve into all of that as well. Also, Kobe Mainoo's been talking as well. Some news on Amrabat, which won't be much of a surprise, but two big things to hit straight away: the Casemiro story and the Rasmus stat, which is just absolutely incredible. A bit of a hint, we spoke about it about 3 months ago. It's not got any better. Right. Oh, before we get all into that though, sorry. Let's not forget Manscaped. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. You can use the code TUS and you can get free shipping worldwide with that code as well. So you get 20% off, but you also get the free shipping charge as well worldwide with Manscaped. Scan the QR code with your camera phone or go through the link in the description. What is Manscaped? It's precision engineering for your family jewels. It's fantastic elite male grooming. That is Manscaped. This is the lawnmower. It's got a light on it. Get down there, get working. You can go in the cupboard and do it. It will light the cupboard up. You'll see what's going on, and you'll see a lot of what's going on when you start to trim the grass and make the yard look bigger. They've also got the weed whacker for up your nose. They've got the handyman for a clean shave if you're out and about. They've also got my favourite, the beard trimmer. 11 different lengths. 11 different styles of stubble. Check it out with Manscaped. These are good, great, superb quality items. You can feel the quality in your hand. I mean, this is only secondary to one thing I put in my hand, and it's absolutely fantastic. Check out Manscaped. 20% off, free worldwide shipping. Big up the Manscaped. You know the rules. Right, let's get into the show. Lots to talk about. You know what? I want to talk about this Casemiro injury shocker, but I feel I just want to... I don't know where to start. We've got two great topics tonight. Let's do Casemiro because it'll be quicker, and then I want to talk about this Rasmus stat because it's incredible. Okay, so this is the story around Casemiro. I mean, I think the thumbnail says not again, and you despair about the injuries at Manchester United this season. There's a lot of people running around with myths and make-believes, and that's absolutely fine because where there's uncertainty, conspiracy thrives. Look, for those people who think we're getting all these injuries because Ten Hag's working them too hard, 2 + 2 is 4. We are a team that can't play like Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool because we don't run enough. So we need to train more to get fitter to be able to run more. And if these players can't do it, then they need to be sold. Maybe they are picking up injuries because they're being worked harder, but they need to work harder. They need to run more. So, what do? Just say, don't run anymore. Let's be a counter-attacking part of the bus team. We can't do that. So it has to happen. But I don't think that's actually the truth. I think there could be a more sinister truth. I think there could be an incompetency in our medical setup. And a lot of things point to this. Martinez had a foot injury, had to have the same operation again. Loads of rumours around what's going on with Malacia. Mason Mount's been injured twice in the first few months of his stay at Manchester United. There's been so many injuries at Manchester United, and this one is incredible. So Casemiro got pulled out of the Brazilian national squad the morning of the Liverpool game. You automatically assume he was out of the Liverpool game. Well, apparently not. Apparently not. It's said that basically what happened is Casemiro felt an issue in his hamstring while training ahead of Man United's big game against Liverpool in the FA Cup. It's an injury which had already sidelined him for some months when he nearly needed surgery. So he spoke to the Red Devils doctors and went through examinations, but the club officials did not find a problem, giving him the green light to play. Still, Casemiro felt pain, and given his past issues, he decided to check with a doctor from Barcelona who treated him before, and they found there was a small injury in that area. So it's claimed that if Casemiro played against Liverpool, it could have become a much bigger issue, with the danger of the old injury repeating itself, and that's why he was ruled out from Man United's match and cut from the national team squad as well. I mean, this is incredible. I'm glad it's come out because I think it feeds the rhetoric that we do have an issue with our medical staff. I mean, look, I wanted Casemiro to play at the weekend. I've heard all sorts of rumours that Casemiro didn't play because, he wanted to be fit for the remaining games. I think that's a half-truth. I think he didn't play because he had a bit of a problem and realised that if he played, he might not play again this season. So I think there's a Copa America coming up in the summer as well. But more importantly, it's about Manchester United. There's no way that Casemiro wouldn't want to play against Liverpool as well. But you're right, Chris Grathwell. It is absolutely embarrassing that Man United's doctors have this story out there that they missed a minor injury that could have turned into a season ender. And Ineos will be looking at this. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, it's not like Southgate last night where I'm losing my shit and talking about digging up a dead rabbit. I mean, I'm not going to lose it about this because this is exactly what someone like Sir David Brailsford will look at. This is his arena. I wouldn't trust him on a manager. I wouldn't trust him on a signing, but I would trust him on fitness and conditioning because that was his thing. And he will be looking at this and he will look into this. And if there's any truth in this, then these people are going to get removed, and they have to. You've got So Jim Radcliffe spoke about best in class. I think that there's probably a very clear correlation now between our medical staff and the amount of injuries we've had, and it's not just this season. It's not just this season. We've been having injuries at Man United since Sir Alex days. I remember them. I remember every October we were getting loads of injuries, even with Sir Alex. It's been going on for years. It's just this year is worse than any other year we've ever had. And there are so many dubious rumours going round about numerous injuries that we've had this season, but that one takes the biscuit. The fact that, if it's true, Man United missed a minor issue with Casemiro and gave him the green light to play, and then the player's gone for a second opinion and they found an injury, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So look, another injury shocker, but look, thank God Casemiro got a second opinion because he should now be okay after the international break. But obviously, if he'd played against Liverpool, he would have been going on international duty with that. And maybe he would have got through the Liverpool game. Maybe we would. But would he have got through the Brazilian games as well? So at least now we're managing it. Nigel says, our medical staff and coaching staff have been a joke for a very long time. Ineos need to sack them, says Nigel. And will you ever do the weekly player rankings again, says Aloy. We will. We are, and we will. But I think that what I will say is that it's not really been a great time to do it. I mean, I think the chart show always works well when United are doing better. So, hopefully we can bring it back after the international break. Andre says, do you think Martial will be back? Do you? I don't. I really don't. And I would have... this will create doubt in the mind of our players about our medical staff, says Ole. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow there was a clarity statement coming out from Man United refuting this, which is why I say if it's true. Where it's actually come from is quite interesting because I think the source of it really is Brazilian, if I'm being correct on that. But look, would it surprise you if it was true? I don't know. Anyway, what is true? Have a sit down here. Have a sit down here. You may well have remembered. We're going to talk about Bruno's comments as well, which are fantastic about the way we play and the way we can't play, and really insightful from Bruno Fernandes. But this is an exclusive for the United stand that I wanted to bring in. If you remember, probably Christmas time, we were talking. Rasmus was getting a bit of stick actually around Christmas time. Rasmus was getting a lot of stick. I think Roy Keane said something. A few of you, minority, were saying I don't think he's all that. A lot of us were saying we do. And I showed a stat about how Rasmus was ranked 25th in the Premier League for shots, which means he's getting no service. he has scored a lot of goals since January, but oh my God, you're going to absolutely be stunned by this. So Rasmus has done really well since January. He's scored a lot of goals, hasn't he? But I've been saying in every game, all right, he scored a goal there. How many shots did he have? That one. Oh, he scored again a goal there. How much service did he get? None. He created that himself. The service for Rasmus is still not there. It's absolutely shocking, and it's worse than I thought. So in relation to Premier League attackers who've had the most shots this season, Erling Haaland has had 83 with a 21% conversion rate. Nunez has had 81 shots with a 12% conversion rate. Watkins has had 80 shots with a conversion rate of 20%. Rasmus, considering that Haaland's had 83, Nunez has had 81, Watkins has had 80, and Solanke's had 73, guess how many shots Rasmus has had? 29. 29. I mean, Solanke's nearly had 3 times the amount of shots. Now, Solanke's got a conversion rate of 21%. Watkins has got a conversion rate of 20%. Rasmus has got a conversion rate of 24% from 29 shots. The service we're providing to our striker is absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. And fair play to him for scoring some goals, but that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. 29 shots this season. Tony's had 28, and he only started playing again in mid-January. Unbelievable. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And you know what? We've got these journalists trying to sack a manager. We've got these journalists talking about overrunning. That's where we should be talking. That's fact. That's on Wyscout. 29 shots for Rasmus Højlund this season. Son's had 61. Solanke's had 73. Watkins has had 80. Haaland's had 83. You know where Rasmus ranks in attackers for shots this season? 30th. There's only 20 teams in the Premier League. It's absolutely shocking. And wrap your lips around this. Not in that way. I mean, like, talk about it. Bruno's had 71 shots. Rashford's had 57. So Bruno's had nearly 3 times the amount of shots as Rasmus. Rashford's had more than double. No, about double. Guess what their conversion rate is this season? Rashford's is 12%. Bruno's is 5%. Rasmus is 24%. You know what? If I'm Ten Hag, I'm having a word here. And I'm saying, I've got a £70 million striker who is scoring goals, and he's had less shots than a guy who's only just come back in the middle of January. And Rasmus has been here all season. I've got a number 10 and a winger who's shooting way more than him with, virtually no conversion rate. Pass the bloody ball. Pass the ball. But you know what? It's an amazing stat, isn't it? At the very least, it's an amazing stat. I mean, the fact that he's had 29 shots this season in the Premier League, and Ivan Toney's had 28, and Ivan Toney only started playing again around the 20th of January. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And we have to solve this problem. We've got to be more creative in the final third. Which, funnily enough, against Liverpool, we did create chances. So hopefully we're turning the tide. But and I think there is reason for optimism. But I think you've got to throw the stat out there. You can't hide that. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And what surprises me is that you've got Solanke at Bournemouth, who are a bottom half table team, getting 73 shots this season, and Rasmus has had 29. That's about the players around him. That's about the players around him. That's about bad decisions on the pitch. I don't think Erik Ten Hag is telling Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno, and anybody else just to shoot. I think that's just rush of the blood to the head. I want to get a shot off and not playing the final pass. But we've got to solve that. You know, you can talk about Sesko, you can talk about David. You may as well put me up front if I'm not getting any shots on goal. Interesting, though. I can't read that, Andy. It's very vulgar. Next thing from the media, once Southgate crap is resolved, is Kobe Mainoo should move club for his development. Just wait, says Jonathan. Tok says the manager has got no problem with it. I think he does have a problem with it. I think it's a hard problem to solve. But this feeds lovely into what Bruno Fernandes has had to say. So Bruno Fernandes has given an interview. Get your thoughts in, of course. Bruno Fernandes has given an interview whilst on Portuguese international duty, and he's spoken about a wide raft of things. He spoke about the captaincy. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I think that what I found the most interesting about Bruno was talking about the way that Manchester United play. So in depth in what he had to say. So let me read this out to you. It's obvious because players who like to play with the ball want to have it as much as possible. But sometimes we have to fit into the environment we're in. And it's not possible for us to play in the same way as Manchester City because Manchester City has supporting wingers who are very good in one-on-one too, but footballers who really like to play in support and also inside. I mean, it's a lovely segue from what I was talking about there. The service that Rasmus gets is abysmal, or any striker at Man United gets is abysmal. And I can tell you why that is. It's because we don't create enough from the flanks. We've had injuries to fullbacks, so you don't get your overlaps, but also our wingers don't really get that creative. I mean, I love Garnacho, but, you know, I still think if you play Garnacho, you need a winger on the other side who's Mr. Creative. So we've got two wingers who you know, ultimately aren't looking to be creative. But I think Bruno nails this. He's like, you know what? It's obvious that, you know, we want to play with the ball more, but it's also not possible with the players that we have. You know, Man City have got players that can do that. And we've mentioned this so many times. It's about square pegs in round holes. There is this myth that you can replace a manager or bring Pep Guardiola in and you'll start playing Pep ball with these players. Scott McTominay, Marcus Rashford, they're not going to play Pep ball. Then that's not what they are. They are never going to be on a list that Pep Guardiola wants to sign. That's not it. So you play to the strengths of the players you've got, which I think is massively interesting in the evolution of Man United next season, because there is this demand for style of play, but you can only do what you can do with the players in front of you. And if the club don't sell them, you can't replace them. So what do? Do you keep banging your head against the brick wall and say we must play high-intensity football and high-possession football, or do you try and work with what you've got? And look, he said, look, Manchester United's identity, this is from Bruno, this is really interesting. This might upset a few, but I think he's spot on. He says, Man United's identity has never been about playing a lot of supported football. It is a team with a lot of intensity, intense and offensive football. That's the club idea. Sometimes we make the mistake of thinking that all teams have to play in possession. I want to play in possession. I want to have the ball as much as possible. Well, look, Bruno Fernandes is wrong. And he is right, because Bruno Fernandes, to come out and say Manchester United's identity has never been about playing a lot of supported football is absolute arse if he goes beyond the last decade. Now, if he's talking about the last decade, he's absolutely right. And I think that's what he's talking about. I think he's talking about the Man United he knows of the last 10 years, where we don't play possession football. We play counter, you know, fast football. It's all about pass, 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 try and create a chance. But you go back and watch Man United teams under Sir Alex, and specifically, I'm talking about the Scholes, the Nicky Butts, the Paul Inces, the Roy Keanes, the Dennis Irwins, the Ryan Giggs, the Eric Cantonars, the Mark Hughes. These teams played a lot of possession football. We would go to Selhurst Park on a tractor field and pass the ball around. We scored some fantastic goals being patient. You know, I saw one the other day with Paul Scholes. Like, we played about 50 passes. Man United have not always been this high-intensity team that Bruno's talking about. We've always been a risk-taking team, but we've always been, you know, for a lot of the time Sir Alex was in charge, we were more than capable of pinging the ball about. We had a lot of people. You know, you think about people like Rio Ferdinand at the back, Jaap Stam at the back, Gary Neville, Dennis Irwin, Patrice Evra. They were all capable of playing football. Van der Sar, you know, we have and always have been a possession-based team as well when we wanted to be. But we could also turn it up to 90 miles an hour, hit the flanks, counter-attack as well. So Bruno's wrong to say that we've never, ever been that, because we have. But in fairness to Bruno, in the last 10 years, we have been like that. We've not been a possession-based team, and we don't have the tools to do it. He also said, I can't ask Marcus Rashford and Garnacho, who are pure wingers, to play inside in the same way as others who perhaps started their careers as midfielders or number 10s and fell to the lines. I can't ask Rashford or Garnacho to do what Bernardo Silva does, because when he plays as a winger, it's a completely wrong idea, because Bernardo knows how to play between the lines. He used to be in the middle, and playing from the back is not as simple as it seems. So what Bruno Fernandes is basically doing here is exposing the big problem that Manchester United have, and that's we don't have the players. We don't have the players. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is basically saying we're playing to the strengths of what we have, which is what many of you've said. It's what we've discussed. But there are still some people out there in the media, even in our fan base, that thinks we can turn a switch and play high intensity, high possession football. We can't do it. We don't have the players to do it. That's what Bruno is saying. So he says people sometimes have this idea that all the players have to do what others do. We've got specific characteristics that define us as players and make us very good at acting on what we do. People have to understand that we do what enhances the quality of the player alongside us. So what he's saying is, if I've got Marcus Rashford, I'm going to get him the ball. I know he's going to shoot. I can't expect to make a run and get it back. It's not going to happen. And I think this is really interesting what Bruno Fernandes is saying. And there was one other bit I wanted to read as well. He says, look, however, if I rotate and have my two wingers making the movement in depth, my option is either to carry the ball with my striker or watch the depth of my wingers. If my extremes are more open, what do I think next? Ball at the feet to take advantage of the one-on-one, have to play with the quality I have at my side. So he's just saying, look, you know what? People, and all this was really interesting as well. People say, Bruno, I loved this. It was almost in answer to what we've been talking about and many Man United fans have been talking about. He said, people say Bruno needs to keep the ball more. But obviously, if I'm playing in the number 10 position and the ball goes between the lines and I spin, and when the ball goes between the lines, it's because the pressure was high. At that moment in which I turn, the pressure is on my back and I can't go back because if I go back, I'll meet the pressure. The ball comes and I can play support or simply keep it and go to the wing. I don't really know what he's talking about there. I think what he's talking about there is that, you know, people say Bruno needs to keep the ball more, but he doesn't feel he can keep the ball because when he receives it, he's under so much pressure from everywhere, so he goes wide. I think what he's saying is if people want him to receive the ball and maintain possession centrally, then he needs players who can support him in that way, and he doesn't have that. So automatically, I think Bruno receives the ball, he's looking for a ball in behind, or he's looking for a ball to the flanks. It doesn't solve the problem that I believe Bruno needs to keep the ball more, but I also sympathise with him and would question whether he can do it. I don't think Bruno Fernandes is Martin Odegaard. Odegaard is a magnetic number 10 who can keep the ball patiently. I don't know that Bruno will ever be that anyway, but I do sympathise with him in the sense that he doesn't have players around him that he can do what we want. We want to be a possession team. It's a shame because I thought Jadon Sancho could be that player on the wing. When you watched Sancho at Dortmund, he was very much a possession-based winger, and I thought he was going to be transformative for us. I think you can have a Garnacho and Rashford on one wing if you've got a Sancho on the other wing, but obviously Sancho failed, so we end up with two wide wingers who are very much attacking wingers who don't want to play part of the possession. They want to get in behind. So we don't really have the options, is what Bruno's saying, and I do agree with him on that one, and I think the wider picture is that it basically exposes and sits down the critics of Ten Hag or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or let's leave Mourinho out it. We don't have the players to play the brand of football that I think a lot of people want to play. My ideal brand of football for Manchester United is actually a fusion of what I grew up on. You know, I want a team that can be patient when it needs to be patient, and I want a team that can transition quickly when it needs to. You look at Man City, I think predominantly they are a patient possession team who grind teams down. Sometimes they'll break, but it's not really in their forte. I think Liverpool are the sort of middle point. They can be comfortable in possession in the final third and be patient, but they can also transition quickly as well. And they fuse that quite well. Man United, on the other hand, we are all about quick transition. We are not about final third possession and patience. And I don't want to say we want to be like Liverpool, because we want to be different from Liverpool, but that is what you need to be at the top level. I think you need to be able to transition quickly, but also have good possession. We can't have possession high up in the pitch. We're terrible at it. Everything we do is quick. Even against Liverpool in that first half an hour, it's quick. It was relentless, but it's quick. There's no 5 minutes of possession. And that's something we need to work to. And what Bruno Fernandes is basically saying is, we don't have the players to do it. You know, he's not saying the manager can't do it. He's just saying we don't have the players to do it. And you know, I think we're all in agreement with that. So, look, Ineos are apparently going to dictate the style of play. Good. But if they're going to dictate the style of play, surely they're going to bring the players in that can do it. And I'm very interested by next season, because if Rashford and Garnacho are our wingers and Bruno Fernandes is our number 10, how are we going to play a high possession, patient football? We won't. It won't happen. So Ten Hag stays, it won't happen. Pep Guardiola comes in, which he won't, it won't happen. You know, it won't change. It won't change. I don't think Rasmus is suddenly going to get 80 shots next season with those 3 players in behind him unless they completely change the way they play football. You know, you've got Rasmus Højlund with 29 shots in the Premier League. You've got Bruno and Rashford, you know, 60 and above. How's that going to change next season? Are they going to stop? This is what Bruno's saying. We can't be what we're not. We have to be what we are. How do you change that? Marvin says Bruno's admitting he can't keep the possession. How are you not reading the lines? No, I am, Marvin. 100%. That's what I said. That's what I said when he was talking about receiving the ball. He can't go back. He can't go there, so he goes wide. He can't do it. That's what he's basically saying. I think he's offering up that if he had the players with him, he could do it. As I said, Marvin, the only way we would understand that is if Pep Guardiola took Bruno Fernandes on loan for a month and dropped him in the Kevin De Bruyne position. Do you think Bruno Fernandes would do it? Do you think he could do it? The answer would only be in the experiment. But was better David May? Who was better, David May, Henning Berg, or Ronnie Johnson? I thought David May was crap. So Henning Berg and Ronnie Johnson, to be honest. Why have they started making appointments in the medical department already? Says Levi. Do they have to wait? I'd change these teams as fast as possible. Says Levi. Nigel says our medical staff and coaching staff has been a joke for a very long time. Ineos need to sack the lot of them. Thank you, Nigel. Appreciate that. I loved the interview from Bruno Fernandes anyway. I really did. But I found the footballing... Look, some people aren't going to like it because they don't like Bruno. I did like it because whatever you think about Bruno, I sometimes just read the words. What he's basically saying is what many of us have been saying for a very long time. You cannot ride a... You probably can ride a lot of things. You can't ride a brick, but you can ride a horse. If United want to do things, they've got to buy the right vehicle to do it. And at the moment, you know, we can't do it. We can't do it with the players that we've got. And that is something that I've been saying to you for a very long time. One of the reasons I want Ten Hag to stay is because he will have a list of players he wants to get rid of. Whereas a new manager will come in with a smile on their face and say, let's try again. Imagine Prattgate walking in. He'd be like, I'm really liked at England. That's my thing. Forget good football. Forget, you know, strong decisions. But you will like me. Because I basically just want everyone to like me. So you'll like me. So he ain't going to get rid of anybody, is he? He's not going to get rid of anybody at all. Maybe that's part of the plan of bringing him in, saving money. But, you know, it won't make a bloody difference. Because we need to clear out. And we absolutely have to clear out. And for me, that's going to be the really interesting thing. Who gets cleared out? Because if you want to play a different style of football, you've got to clear these players out. Can't polish a turd. Exactly. You can't polish a turd. This is what Bruno Fernandes also had to say. I've spoken to Ineos. I want to stay here. I want to be part of a project that has feet, legs, torso and head and everything that is needed so that we can compete with Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool, which are the clubs that have been in the best shape. So, look, Bruno Fernandes wants to stay. He wants to be part of the project. He wants to compete with Man City and Arsenal and Liverpool. And I think Bruno Fernandes can be a player that plays in a team that wins the Premier League for Manchester United. I do. I really, really do. Some of you might disagree with me on that, but I do. I think he's good enough. I just think he needs better players around him. Yeah. Ant says, Mark Ogden said some players would want Southgate. Mate, it's like asking turkeys if they want to cancel Christmas. Couldn't give a shit. You know, that's because they might be on the menu. I don't care what players want. If Ineos are taking player opinion on the manager of Man United, Ineos out. I couldn't give a toss what paid labour has to say about our football club. Their opinion is irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. Even the captain, irrelevant. I don't care what you say. You will do as you're told or you will get out. You've had too much say in the past. We've sacked managers because of these players going behind the back and speaking to Ed Woodward. So, no, absolutely do not care who want. They probably want Southgate for the same reason they wanted Ollie, because it was mates rates. And they enjoyed that for a bit, and then they realised they were getting shit, so they threw him under the bus. I couldn't give a shit. You know what? I'm not getting into the Gareth Southgate thing, but if you want an absolute mic drop on Gareth Southgate, he was shit at Middlesbrough. He was bang average as a player. His tactics are shit. And absolutely has dropped the ball on the best generation of England players we've had in 25 years. Absolutely should have won the World Cup and should have won the Euros and will win the Euros this year because we're getting better and better with players coming through that we're going to shit all over everybody else because our players are so good. But he blew a home final in the Euros by parking the bus, and he blew a game against France in the quarterfinal when we should have had them on toast. We should have been having French toast. So, you know, the best thing I can say about any Southgate rumour is his tactics are shit. He's actually an underachiever extraordinaire. With what he had at his disposal, we should have won the Euros at Wembley, and we should have beat France in the World Cup and got ourselves into a final against Argentina. He failed. He failed with what he's got. And if you told me at any point that Gareth Southgate was the man to take Manchester United back to the top, I would have said, I'm taking you to the doctors tomorrow. You need help. Absolutely. You know, I don't even know why this story is still being spoken about. Fundamentally, a job of a manager is not to create a kindergarten where everybody's happy and you play games. It is to create a winning mentality with elite tactics. Gareth Southgate, elite tactics, Manchester United do not go together. They don't go together. He failed. He's failed. And I think we'll win the Euros, and I'm very excited about it. But he's failed, actually. He's failed with what he's got. He's just a crap coach. He's a brilliant man manager by the sounds of it. Players absolutely love him. But, you know, Ollie was. And look what happened to Ollie. And Ollie had a connection with the club, so we wanted Ollie. I don't want Southgate. You can ride a unicycle. It's unsteady and can be interesting to watch, but you won't be going very fast. United is a unicycle, says Patrick Lynch. Hope you're doing well, mate. Mania says, I don't get why everyone is so big about possession-based football. Is that the only way that works at an elite level? I don't want to play like City. I agree. I completely agree. I don't want to play like Man City. I find it very, very boring. I do like the way Liverpool play. I like the fusion of having the ability to kill a game with possession. I like the patience of probing a team that's parking the bus, but I also like to transition quickly. And I'll tell you another story as well. The reason Rasmus doesn't get any shots on goal is because we're crap in the final third. You know, if you play up front for Man City or Liverpool, the reason Nunez and Haaland get so many shots is because Liverpool and Man City will probe for the chance. They're good at playing against the low block. We're crap against the low block. Absolutely rubbish. We're so easy to play against. I mean, teams don't do it anymore because they want to have a go at us, which actually, I mean, I half think if Ten Hag does it on purpose, you know. I half think, does Ten Hag leave the midfield open to make teams play against us and open up so that we can exploit them? It's almost like let's just throw punches at each other, because if a team comes to Old Trafford like Fulham and parks the bus, we won't break them down. So maybe we're doing it on purpose. Maybe we're opening up the space so that teams go, oh, let's have a go, and it opens up. I mean, it's a bit of a risk because you might lose like we did to Fulham, but player for player, France was better, way better in the World Cup, says Gary. Yeah, but the tactics were shit, mate. We had them on the ropes for half an hour before that penalty. We had them on the ropes. I couldn't believe we didn't lose to France. Sorry, I couldn't believe we lost to France. We should have beat them. I think they hit us with a couple of sucker punches. We should have beat them. With a better coach, we would have beaten them. I'm telling you now, if you'd put Jurgen Klopp in charge of that England team, he'd have won a Euros and a World Cup already. Piece of piss. With one arm time behind his back. The tactics are terrible. We're so crap. I mean, I watched us in the last World Cup. The USA played us off the park. In an important game, they played us off the park. The USA. So, you know, and we man for man, we're way better than the USA. Bruno will work perfectly under a counter-attacking system, Athletic or Jose's team, says Plugged Scope. Look, I think that we've said it before and I'll say it again. I'd love to see some of these players evolve. I believe they've got the ability to do it. We saw Rashford with the pass to Garnacho against Liverpool for the first goal. But if you're asking me, if I go through... This is a very good experiment, actually. If you went through... If I said to you, if Bruno Fernandes didn't play for Man United, what team would he start with and suit in the Premier League? Now, he might start for Arsenal. Would he suit them? Not more than Odegaard, no. He wouldn't play in Odegaard's position. Where would Bruno start in the Premier League, and what style of football would he suit? It's a good question. And I'd ask the same as Rashford. I mean, I think Rashford might work for Spurs the way they use Son, to be fair. But I think Rashford works really well in a counter-attacking team. I really do. Exclusive gamer... Sorry. Angel Bomb says, disagree, Mark. We had a better team with the golden generation. Yeah, and we blew that with Eriksen. Exclusive Gem says, Casemiro and Varane need to go. They're too slow to compete now. Slow? Varane? Mate, you need to watch some football. I'll give you a chance there. I'll give you a chance. It's a waste time watching Southgate's England. I want Manu there, but I don't want him near Southgate, says Mania. And the best manager for international German football is not Klopp. He has retired, says Wizzer. And I think Varane needs extending, says Popo. I just want to try and get... Bruno for West Ham, says Just Kevin. Liverpool, says Rome. I just subscribed, says Erica. Thank you very much. Bruno fits with Newcastle or Spurs. I think Newcastle would be a very good team, actually. Spurs, maybe. Spurs' style of football is weird. I think he might work in that team. But... yeah, I mean, I think for Rashford and Bruno, the only team in the top 6 other than us I think they might start for is probably Spurs. I don't think Villa. I don't think Bruno would work for Villa, the way they play with their midfield. And I don't think Rashford would be creative enough to play where Leon Bailey plays or Diaby plays, so I don't think he'd play either. I might be wrong. I'm not the coach of Aston Villa. JK says, a bit off topic, but Benaka should be solid if United look for a defensive midfielder. I'd only worry about injury track record. Well, apparently we're not looking for it. There's a great video this afternoon if you're interested in transfers. The Transfer List is a new show that we're going to do weekly. The Hotometer made its return. Really enjoyed the show. Went in depth on a lot of transfers there and the players that we think that Manchester United are looking at the moment. And there were some good players in there. I was very, very happy about that. Shall we have a look at what Kobe Mainoo had to say, and then we'll delve into some of your comments as well as ever. Thank you. Loving the 8 o'clock shows at the moment. That Rasmus stat's unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. So, Kobe Mainoo's been talking about his footballing heroes. I'd say Rooney Scholes as well as Eric Cantona. Bit before my time, but I still appreciate it. That wasn't what I wanted to talk about. There was better quotes than that. Let me just get them on the United stand. Here we go. So he said, look, on his England call-up, I was shocked and happy. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, a pretty mad couple of days. He basically said, look, I've been so focused on Manchester United and the games that we've been playing that it sort of has been a bit of a whirlwind. He said, look, I think it's the end goal for the season to get in that squad for the Euros. But obviously I've got to focus on club football in the meantime, and hopefully that'll figure itself out. Look, I think there's a very big chance he's going to go to the Euros. I'm not changing my mind. Selfishly, I don't want him to go. I mean, I don't. I think that we can't keep doing this. I mean, I saw that Botman's done his ACL. Like, we've had, on the one hand, you've got, I hope Mainoo goes to the Euros. And on the other hand, you've got the worst injury season we've ever had. Something is fundamentally wrong with the British game at the moment, and nobody will talk about it, and I don't know why. We've had over a 20% increase from last season in injuries. There is a direct correlation between games played and, more importantly, the fact that these stupid referees are adding 10 minutes on the end of the second half and 5 minutes on the end of the first half. It's a ridiculous amount of football, and the more you play, the more chances you're going to get injured, the more fatigued your body is. And, you know, that is why, from a purely selfish point of view, an 18-year-old in a breakout season having a holiday in June and coming back restored and grown is more preferable. And what you got to remember is he's 18. If he has a month off from football, his body will develop. If you don't have any time off, it's very difficult for your body to develop. He'll go straight from the Euros, straight into the US Tour, straight into another season. We've got to look after these players. But that's my opinion. It's selfish because I put Man United ahead of the club. The player clearly wants to go to the Euros, and you can't deprive him that. The player clearly deserves to go to the Euros. You can't deprive him that. And I'd be very excited to see him in the Euros as well. He's got to go. He deserves to go. He wants to go. I think he will go. And he said, look, obviously I've got to focus on club football in the meantime. Hopefully going to the Euros will figure itself out. But I do worry about the amount of injuries we see, not just at Manchester United. I think there's just so many at the moment. He said, in relation to the Premier League, I've had to adapt to the Premier League. Obviously, it's very demanding physically and mentally, so it's been tough, but I feel like I found my feet a bit now and I'm enjoying it. He said, on the biggest influence, he said, I'd probably say Casemiro or Bruno. Playing him in the field with them two has definitely helped me a lot. And interestingly, talking about injury, he had this to say. I thought I was going to hit the ground running at the start of the season, but obviously I got injured against Real Madrid and required surgery. It was a setback, but it didn't hold me back too much. And obviously that's, a very, refreshing point, isn't it? That he was... meant to be a breakout player from the start of the season. And you wonder how different our season would have been if he'd have been ready from the start of the season. But look, thank God it wasn't a major injury and he did come back. Hey, my US side ain't that bad, Mark. Joke, we're crap, says Jacob. Mark, I'm sick to death, says Bounty Hunter, of the media on Ten Hag. But it's all bull about Southgate. Ten Hag will get another season. There are other managers doing worse. Look, it's absolutely incredible. And you make a great point, Bounty Hunter. Never underestimate the power of the media. You don't have to listen to them, but never underestimate it. They basically had their stories lined up this week thinking Man United were going to lose. Some of them have had the common sense to put them in the recycle bin and leave them. Other people have gone, sod it, I'll put them out anyway. Completely dismissing the fact that we've just had one of our best wins at Old Trafford in years against Liverpool in an FA Cup quarter-final. And they've still put a story out. Only the media can do this and push it. It's incredible that we're getting stories about a replacement manager after that Liverpool result. They've got no respect. They don't care. They just throw it out. The agenda comes out. But I'm with you. I'd be absolutely stunned if Ineos were to make a change now. And these players are behind the manager. It's very, very clear. I purposely say it in the preview before every game that if we lose this game, it's on the players. Because I think we're in that position now where they probably are reading the media and they probably know they can down tools if they want to, like they have in the past, but they're not. They're not. And I'll goad them again for Brentford. I'll say, look, if we lose to Brentford, it's on the players just not putting the effort in. And hopefully they'll keep putting the effort in because it's very clear that they did against Liverpool. Sulai says Bruno's snitching. He needs to win the FA Cup before he says anything. He's the captain of the team, mate. Look, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that comment from Sulai because some people might read Bruno saying that certain players can't play the way that we want to play. Square pegs in round holes. Some people can see that as being bitchy or whatever. He's the captain. He's the captain of Manchester United. He might not be old enough to remember what Roy Keane used to say. It was a lot worse. I ain't got a problem with the captain coming out and speaking on behalf of the manager or the team and, portraying what the real issues are. I think Bruno's absolutely spot on. He's basically saying we haven't got the players to play the way the fans want to play. And until we've got those players, we can't do it. Well, that's coming from the captain of the club who plays with those players. It's all right me saying it, you saying it, a pundit saying it. When the captain of the team who plays is saying we can't do it, it doesn't get any better than that. He did speak about the captaincy, by the way. I completely forgot about that. And he spoke about the criticism that he'd received. And he said, look, that's who I am. I'm an intense player. The throwing of the hands in the air. I'm an intense player, but I take issue with people who think it's destructive or causes a problem to the morale of the team. He said, look, in the dressing room, if I speak to a player in a bad way and they don't like it, I'll tell them to say it. And who's come out and said that? Who's leaked anything to the press about that? Nobody. So, this thing that I'm a problem for the team, I don't agree with it. The dressing room morale around me, captain, is good. And when I'm getting petulant or whatever you want to describe it as, it's because I'm intense and I want to do better. Look, I saw Roy Keane doing it. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with the way Bruno's playing at the moment. I don't think he's playing very, very well, but I will not criticise his leadership or his dedication to the cause. There's so many players at United now and in the past who, when the going gets tough, they put the trainers on and leg it. When the going gets tough, Bruno goes to war. He'll play injured. The only issue I have at the moment is his performances aren't matching the effort, but hopefully that can happen. Just Keevan says you can't question him as a captain. I think he's been brilliant. And look, I know for a fact the players love him. You've heard Mainu talking about it there. Rasmus spoke about it. The players love him. Now, the problem at Man United is the players. Not all of them, but the problem, as Bruno said, is the players. We don't have the players to play the way we want to play. And until we have that, I think most conversations are futile. Bruno, the captaincy, can we win the league? Do we need to change the manager? I think everything is staring us in the face. Bruno Fernandes has said it. Most of you say it. The clear out is not a word. It's a necessity. We've got to change the playing squad. It is a mismatch of jigsaw pieces. You've got a bit of Jose's jigsaw. You've got a bit of Van Gaal's jigsaw. You've got a bit of Ollie's jigsaw. You've got a bit of Ten Hag's jigsaw. You can't make a picture from that jigsaw because they're all different. You know, Mourinho's jigsaw is one of London Bridge. Ten Hag's is one of Amsterdam. Ollie's is one of Norway. And Van Gaal's is one of Barcelona. You're not going to build a picture from those different pieces. And we need to clear out and start buying pieces that fit the manager's picture. And we've started it. We need to continue it, in my opinion. Mark, Real Madrid announced players who played in semis and finals for Euros and Copa America won't be on the US tour. Should we do the same thing? Arturo, I don't think we need to. The Euros final is on the middle of July. Let's say it's the 15th of July. In 2 weeks after that, I think it's less than 2 weeks after that, we play, I think, Arsenal in Carolina. I expect certain Man United players to be playing in that Euros final. I don't know when the Copa America final is, if anybody knows that. But if you're, for example, a Harry Maguire, who might not be a Man United player by then, to be honest, but if you're a Bruno Fernandes or a Marcus Rashford and you get to the Euros semi-finals or finals, you will have gone from the end of a ridiculously hard season straight into preparations with England and Portugal. There'll be a little bit of downtime, but it's not a proper holiday because you've got to keep your fitness up. Then in the middle of July, you'll finish a tournament. You're not going to get on a plane to the US. You're going to have, by common sense, you're going to have 2 weeks R&R where you literally are on a beach. Well, that takes you to the end of August, to the end of July. Man United will be on the tour. You might fly out to the tour and, you know, start your pre-season training, but I don't think you'll be playing. I don't think you're going to see these players play if you're in the States. You might see them train. I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, Marcus Rashford gets to the final with England. I mean, God, you're going to be back in England for a couple of days partying and having an open-top bus tour, aren't you? But I wouldn't be surprised if United advise a lot of their players to take their holidays in the States. So instead of Dubai or wherever else, I wouldn't be surprised if they tell them to take the holidays in the States, because then they can have 2 weeks in the States and not have to travel to train, and then you just start your pre-season there. I think that might happen. But this is what I mean about a condensed closed season. This is what I'm talking about with Mainu. And forget Mainu for a moment. What about Bruno Fernandes? What about Marcus Rashford? What about Casemiro? What about, you know, thank God Varane doesn't play international football anymore. But all these players, they're not getting a break again. You know, we go on about next season, let's hit the ground running next season. How many of these players are literally going to go from the middle of July, a couple of weeks off, into a new season for another 9 months? It's absolutely incredible how much football they have to play. And I think by the end of this season, some of these players are going to be dead on their feet. I really do. But hopefully there'll be some players that don't go that are really fresh. Apparently Martinez is starting for Argentina. That's awful, says Goldio. I'd be very surprised about that. If anybody's got anything on that. Viewer 9876 says, is Scott McTominay in the way of Rasmus getting more shots? I'll tell you that in the morning. Look, I think there's a problem with McTominay. I've said this before. Low-key, there's a problem. We get broken on because he's always in our box. And he's a midfielder. So we get broken on because he's up in the box and he can't get back. I also think he wanders into areas that Rasmus would naturally go as well. So I don't think long term it works with McTominay in the team constantly breaking in the box, because that's what Rasmus is there to do. It works sometimes, you know, he has scored some key goals, but we do get broken on a lot because Bruno's advanced and McTominay's advanced and we get broken on. But off the bench, last 10 minutes, Brentford, we win the game because of him. So it's whether you want to keep him as a bench option, but as a starter, it's a non-starter for me. Goldio says some Argentina sources are saying it, not sure if it's true. Look, Luke Shaw is with the England squad. He probably won't play for Man United again this season. It's a morale thing. He wants to go to the Euros. I don't have a problem with that. Some people would say, you know, Luke Shaw's missed most of the season for Man United now. He's going to get himself fit for the Euros. And then, you know, what does that mean for Man United next season? Prioritising England. I've said it before. Some of these players that we've got, and they're not all English, Brazilian, Argentinian, they love their countries. They love getting called up to play for their country. They're massively passionate about it. I think most Man United fans don't care. Man United before England, 100%. But some of these players put England before Man United. They put Argentina before Man United. That's their right. Some of you might put your national team before Manchester United. So Luke Shaw going to England to be training in the gym whilst, you know, interacting with his England teammates, don't have a problem with it. Martinez going over to Argentina, training with his teammates, don't have a problem with it. In a way, if he plays against Argentina, I'm quite happy. I know it's really controversial. I don't think he will play, but if he does, I'm happy because it means he's ready. You know, I said this last week. He's really close to being ready for the Brentford game. If he plays against Argentina, he'll play against Brentford. Like, if he doesn't play for Argentina, does Ten Hag throw him in against Brentford? It could be a real positive. If he plays some minutes for Argentina, he comes straight into the team for Brentford, which gets us higher up the pitch. So it might not be a bad thing, but I don't think he will. What I was told is he won't do that. He'll be training, nothing more than that. Ferocious says it's a disgrace. But you know what, Ferocious? I don't think it is. I mean, you can think it is, but I don't think it is because it's only the same as Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw has basically missed from November to the end of the season. He came back for 2 games and got injured. So Luke Shaw hasn't played for Man United from November to the end of the season, but he's going to go and play in the Euros and play, 7 games in the space of a month for England. Is that a disgrace? If he's fit, he's fit. If he's working towards being fit for that, he's fit. That's for the club to decide whether it's a disgrace or not. I don't think it's a disgrace. I think it's about timing. If he's going to be back for late May and he's fit, why should he not play for England? And if Martinez is going to be back fit to play for Man United this week, but we don't have a game, so he might play for Argentina, I don't have a problem with it. You can't dictate when a player gets back fit. Now, if a player is avoiding playing for Man United because they want to keep themselves back for England or Argentina, that's a different thing. But I don't think those players are doing that. And to be fair to Luke Shaw, the injury he had was always going to combine with roughly mid to late May, which is going to be the end of the season. But I think if we get to the FA Cup final, Luke Shaw might play because he's such an important player. So if he plays in the FA Cup final, what's the problem with him going to the Euros? Look, if I had my way, I've said it about Mainu, I'll say it, and it's not just Mainu, just because he's 18, I would tell you right now. And Rasmus is excited about playing for Denmark, and Mainu wants to go to the Euros with England, and Bruno wants to go with Portugal. If I could be arsehole Bridge, and I could stop 5 Man United players going to the Euros and send them on holiday to Dubai for a month where they don't kick a ball, they just have a relaxation and rest their muscles. Bruno, Mainu, Rasmus, Garnacho and Martinez. Those 5, you're not going. Your last game of the season is the FA Cup. Get yourselves on holiday. I'll see you at the start of July. I would, because Man United's my priority. And all those players would be going absolutely mad, saying, what are you doing? I'd say, I've got the power. You're not going. Forget it. Go and sulk on the beach because I'm doing it for your own good and Manchester United's. But that's not the world we live in. That's not the world we live in. These players want to play for their country. And I think it's great on an individual level. I just worry about injuries because I think we've just witnessed the worst season I've ever known. Who will be the next youth player to come through, says Elliot Lamb. I think this is a really interesting question. Look, Kambwala might start getting a bit of game time. Has he been over-promoted? Will he go on loan? I still think Dan Gore's interesting. I know the loan hasn't particularly gone well, and that's always a bit of a problem when a loan doesn't go well. But look, Ahmad's initial loan didn't go well, but Rangers did it. So I still think Dan Gore's one to keep an eye on, but he's probably going to have a full loan next season. There will be a breakout player next year. There's a ridiculous amount of players to shout out, so I'm not going to do it because it's unfair, and you just never know who's going to break. The under-18s team is fantastic, but it's not usual that you have a 17, 18-year-old ready to go in the team like Mainu. Cad says Lacey, yeah. Amas, yeah. Very, very good players, but I don't know. Because I think Amas is 16. I think Lacey's 16 or 17. So they just might not be ready. Lightning says show T-Ray. I mean, I forgot he was... I almost feel like Show Retire's 27. Like, I don't even know how old he is. You forget about him. If he could... Would he be another breakthrough player, though? Because he had a go before. So, yeah, it could be him. But Kevin says Lacey's next. It depends on whether they're ready. They might not be ready for another year. So, it's a bit like having bread in the oven, isn't it? When are they going to be ready? You don't have to... Just because you're not ready at 17 doesn't mean you're not going to be ready at 19. So, it's hard to predict who it's going to be, but there's plenty of candidates, and the youth setup at the moment is thriving. And again, it's something that Ten Hag doesn't get any credit for, because what he's done really, really well at Manchester United, away from, the praise or criticism people want to give him about the first team, what he's done in 18 months at Old Trafford is revolutionary in relation to the youth setup. And, the understanding that they have and the work with Nick Cox and everybody else is that, he made that statement really, really early on. You will only play for the first team if you're good enough. No more of these handing out youth. We've seen so many people over the last few years get a start for Man United at the end of the season. Where are they now? Ten Hag has implemented this elitism, which is you'll only start for Man United, you'll only play for Man United if you're good enough. And it's instantly knocked the bar up. I spoke to a couple of young players about this weeks ago, and they were talking about Mainu, and they said the bar has just gone up. And that's why the performances have gone up, because everybody knows that, maybe 2 years ago, I might get called up today. I might get to train with the first team today. But because of what Ten Hag's done and said, look, he's got rid of so many players that some people thought might get a chance. And he's basically said, look, you're only getting in if you're better than what I've got, or as good as what I've got. You're not coming in to be nurtured. You've got to come in and hit the ground running. You can train with the first team, but playing for the first team only if you can match up to what we've got. And it's made such a difference, because all those young players now, they know they've got to go up a level, and the pathway is there as well. They look at someone like Mainu, and he's a hero because they've been training with him. They know where he's come from, and I think that's amazing. What's going on with the youth setup, and Ten Hag's got a massive part to do with that, as of his coaches, as of the current youth setup, and there's some fantastic players there. I think it's so hard to predict who's going to come through, because there are so many potential players out there. I could reel off about 30, but I think Lacey's interesting. Amas, I quite like that. McAllister. You've got the Fletcher brothers at some point as well. There's some good defenders in that team as well. I'd like to see one of the holding midfielders come through desperately. I hope that Ten Hag's got a plan for that. Josh says, hi Josh, hope you're doing well. Legend, Josh Edwards. Hi Mark, hope you're doing well. What's your prediction for the end of the season? Do you think top four is completely down the drain? I think in relation to top four, Brentford away, Chelsea away, Liverpool at home, that will define it. If we can put a bit of pressure on Villa and Spurs. Spurs have got a horrible April. Villa are still in the Conference League. We can get 5th, maybe 4th, but you've got to put the pressure on. 6 points is a lot. We've got a game in hand on Villa that would put us 6 points behind them. We are 6 points behind Spurs, but there's only 10 games to go. So 3 of them are going to go in the first week back from the international break. If we're 6 points behind, or 7 or 8 points behind with 7 to go, we won't do it. We won't do it. Making a point per game is hard. So we've got to beat Brentford. We've probably got to beat Chelsea or Liverpool as well. If we can take 6 from 9, we've got a chance. If we can take 7 from 9, we've got a decent chance. If we can take 9 from 9, we'll do it. But it's hard to beat Liverpool at home, as we saw. And it's hard in this league to go and beat Brentford and Chelsea away. But it's you know, we've got to try and do it, of course. Mark, what does Rashford become if we get more possession-based wingers? Says Jay. A flair player. You know, you can have a player like that that's just allowed to do what they want. He could just become the flair in the team. Which is why I say I'm really interested, because people are obsessing about this style of play thing. But Garnacho's not going anywhere. Bruno's not going anywhere. Rashford's not going anywhere. So if those three are going to start next season, how are we going to suddenly start creating chances for Rasmus? How are we going to suddenly start playing possession-based football? So I think it's really interesting. There's this expectation that next season everything's going to be all right. But I think for everything to be all right, you've got to bring some players in that play in those positions that are more possession-based. And I can't see out of those three who's not going to start next year. I can't see it. And it's not about the players. I'm talking about what Bruno's talking about, our captain. The style of players those are, we'll only see more of what we've seen this season, surely. Like, then they're not going to change over the summer. And also, that's another point. If we're going to change them, when are they going to get changed? Like, that's something you need to be working on the training ground for weeks. All three of those players are going to be playing till mid-July, and then they're going to come back at the start of August and go into a new season. Where is this training ground work to make them more possession-based? I don't know. I'm massively intrigued by what Ineos are going to do in their style of football, because you can't just say we're going to play a possession-based style of football when you haven't got the players to do it, and then you're going to keep the players that can't do it. You know, you can't make statements like that. We will decide the style of football at Manchester United, but we will keep the players that can't do it. What are they going to do? Very interesting. Another legendary show tonight, led by the legends that you are. Absolutely loved it. If you're not watching live, get your comments in as always. Love to read those in the morning. And I do. I sit there reading them from, you know, when I wake up in the morning with a lovely bowl of porridge, a few raspberries, bit of Greek yogurt. And I read not the papers, I read your comments. Who reads the papers these days? This shit. Thanks everyone for watching. Absolutely love the show. Feels like a long time ago since I spoke about the Rasmus amazing stat and the injury thing with Casemiro, but that is the brilliance of the topics that we discuss. Take care, everyone. I'm on the morning show. I will see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Take care.